Hey VC, it is a beautiful Friday afternoon in Trenton, Ontario, and this is Glen Kellaway, your low-end music freak, back with part 3 of my series, Greatest 100 Albums of All Time. As I've said, this is the definitive series. Don't go looking anywhere else. Don't be looking up Rolling Stone's Top 500 or billboards or going on the Steve Hoffman forums and discuss. Just come to this channel, look up my top 100, and it's over. There's no arguments. Anyway, that's in my dreams, by the way. So let's start with part 3. This is going to be number 71 to number 80, I think. Yes, 71 to 80. Okay, so number 80. I was watching Robert's on the turntable. We're pretty much even in where we are in terms of our series. He picked Deep Purple, Book of Taliesin this today. I gotta say, I love the first 3 Deep Purple albums. The MK1, the Mac 1, or whatever you want to call it, of that band, the original lineup with Rod Evans singing I'm probably in the minority, but that's my favorite Deep Purple lineup. I love those 3 albums so much. I know Machine Head, Fireball, and all those are great records. I'm not saying, but I just freaking love those first 3. So thumbs up, Robert, for doing that. But my choice of the 3 is the third one, self-titled Deep Purple, with the crazy cover. I love this freaking album. I loved it from the first moment I heard it when it came out. Has some great songs. The kind of at the end, it's kind of the big orchestra thing with April, which I think is cool. Chasing Shadows, a great song. They do a cover of Donovan's Lelania on here. The Painters, a killer song. Why Didn't Rosemary's a rockin' song. And April is great. Love this freaking album. There's the CD cover. I am actually looking for the vinyl of this. It's one record that I want to own, but I think I'll find a good copy used one of these days. So Deep Purple, this album was released. It's the third album out of the MK1 lineup, released in June 1969. Rod Evans, it's the last album that Rod appeared on as a vocalist. Deep Purple decided to take a different direction and get much heavier. Rod, I think the deal was that he couldn't handle the vocals on where they wanted to go with their music, and they brought in Ian Gillan. So from then on, obviously, it became a classic lineup as well, and MK2, and that's probably the most successful lineup they had with the albums that would be considered the more classic albums. So number 80, Deep Purple. Okay, number 79, another fantastic album. Probably my favorite Tom Petty album, Wildflowers. Beautiful album. There's the CD. This is Tom's second solo album without the Heartbreakers. A couple of interesting guest artists on this album. Ringo is on one of the songs, To Find a Friend, and Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys is on one of the songs. But great acoustic albums. The song Wildflowers is beautiful, one of my favorite Tom Petty songs. A couple of single releases off of this, You Don't Know How It Feels, You Wreck Me, and It's Good to Be King. Good to Be King became quite a staple in their live shows where they really, him and Mike Campbell traded back leads, and the song went on for about 10 minutes. Very cool. Anyway, Wildflowers, number 79. Number 78. I don't know how this gets put down so low. I don't know who's doing this list, but the guy's an idiot. George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. What can you say about this album? It is just a classic. When I got back into vinyl again, and I had a wish list for the first albums that I wanted to put in my collection, this was in the top 5. I love this freaking album. 3 record set, 2 records of songs, and the 3rd album of jam sessions. There's not a bad song on this album. George obviously had a stockpile of songs. This album was released in 1970, shortly after the official breakup of the band. And George obviously had a ton of great songs backed up that he just couldn't get on Beatle albums. This is just an amazing, amazing album. I don't know how I've got it ranked at 78, but I do, so there must be some killer albums coming up. So stay tuned. Anyway, George Harrison, All Things Must Pass, number 78. Number 77. This was a great debut album. Just, I think, blew everybody away. Dire Straits, self-titled. Sultans of Swing. Everybody remember the first time they heard that song? It's like the guitar playing is just phenomenal. Just, Mark Knopfler just had a style all his own, and to this day, whenever he picks up a guitar and you hear it, you know it's Mark Knopfler. This is a great album. Dire Straits went on to put out quite a few. Money for Nothing, Brothers in Arms album was, I guess, their classic, biggest seller. But this was Sultans of Swing. There's not a bad song on this album. Great, great album. Great guitar playing. Great lyrics. Great band. Dire Straits, number 77. Number 76. A very influential album, and so different for the time it came out. Released in 1968, the band's Music from Big Pink. This is another one that could be a top 10 on anybody's list, and no one could argue. Such an influential album. I mean, the people just opened it. It just was so different. You think about what was going in 1968 with Big Brother and the Holding Company and Cream and Hendrix and all the heavy blues, rock stuff that was around, and then the band comes out with this piece of Americana, which is just incredible. It's such a great album. Influenced a lot of people, still influences a lot of people to this day. Eric Clapton always says it changed his life when he heard it. Oh yeah, just amazing, amazing, amazing album. Again, number 76, but could be number 1. Okay, number 75. Another Beatle hits the charts. Paul McCartney's first solo album, McCartney. Now, Paul, this is right when the Beatles were splitting up, and Paul was going through his depression up in the farm, and he kept this completely hidden that he was working on this album, recorded it himself, played all the instruments. Really, when this album came out, I don't think it got the credit it deserves. I think it stood the test of time and is a lot more appreciated now than it was then. Probably the best song Paul McCartney wrote in his solo career, Maybe I'm Amazed, is on this album. Just a great, great album. I rank this in RAM as pretty close. So this is a great album from Paul. Number 75, that was. So number 74 would have to be, I don't know why it would have to be, but it is another influential album. The Byrds, Mr. Tambourine Man. So maybe the father of folk rock. Could argue it might be something else, I don't know, but you could make a good argument that yes, it is. Great album. Right around the time Dylan was going electric, the Byrds were doing this and doing Dylan songs, Mr. Tambourine Man and Spanish Harlem Incident, All I Really Want to Do, Chimes of Freedom, packed full of Dylan songs, Roger McGuinn, David Crosby, Gene Clark. I mean, just a great band. This is an amazing album. This is, by the way, a reissue on red vinyl. Okay, so that's number 74. Going a lot faster today. Yesterday I kind of did a lot of playing music and stuff because I thought, but and I don't have anything to edit it, so once I do it, I do it. And my apologies if any of it got long-winded, but I'm sure you can always grab that little red thing and move it across if you're getting bored and see what's coming up next. One of my favorite bands of all time, the Grateful Dead. Working Man's Dead. Recorded in was released in June 1970. They kind of recorded this back to back with American Beauty. When you think of this album, you think of American Beauty, and like they're almost like a team. But this album is the fourth Grateful Dead album. It kind of a more of Americana feel than their past albums, which are more, I guess, psych blues, however you want to call it. This is much more country roots, Americana music with Uncle John's band, Casey Jones. Great album. Working Man's Dead. Coming in at number 73. Number 72. Finally, Mr. Zappa makes the hit parade here. The Great. A debut album from the Mothers of Invention, Freak Out. Anybody my age remember when they heard this when it came out in 1966? Oh my God, it was just mind-blowing. It was crazy. The music is great, very satirical, but just, it's a genius album. Frank is a genius, there's no doubt about it. I love the man. This is great. So, Susie Cream Cheese, what got you, baby? What's got into you? Frank Zappa, Freak Out. I always get confused. I don't know if this is the first rock double album or Blonde on Blonde is the first rock double album. I think it's pretty much a coin toss. But anyway, number 72, Frank Zappa, Freak Out, and the Mothers of Invention. Last but not least, number 71, another great album that is probably in a lot of people's top 10, but not on the definitive list. The Who, Who's Next? Released in 1971. It's The Who's fifth album. I guess the story is Pete Townsend was working on some kind of a rock opera or concept album called Lifehouse. Then he aborted that project, and a lot of the songs like Free and Easy and that were going to be on Lifehouse ended up on this album. Great album, Won't Get Fooled Again. Bubba O'Reilly, the great Behind Blue Eyes. This is one of the great rock albums of all time. The Who, Who's Next? So that is my third installment of this series. Coming up, as soon as I can get the energy to do part number 4, we'll go from number 70 to 61. I'm anxious to get to the top 50 because there's just so many great albums in there. Not that these aren't great albums, but I thank anybody who's following this series, and if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. I love music discussion, so if you want to tell me I'm an idiot for putting Who's Next at number 71, I would love to hear that comment. I have very thick skin, so let's discuss. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate everyone who supports the channel. Appreciate everyone who supports the vinyl community as a whole. You guys are all wonderful, fantastic, love it. Take care. Oh, and by the way, baseball season, Blue Jays and Tampa tonight. Go Jays.